Menteri Luar Negeri baru Inggris Ed Miliband langsung menjadi sorotan saat menghadiri pertemuan Menteri Luar Negeri ASEAN di Pasay City, Filipina. Baru 48 jam menjabat, Miliband menyampaikan bahwa negara-negara ASEAN merasakan dampak konflik Iran terhadap ekonomi dan kehidupan masyarakat. Ia juga menyebut Inggris ikut merasakan dampak konflik tersebut terhadap biaya hidup dan dunia usaha.
Can I thank you, first of all, for your warm welcome today and for Vietnam's excellent support as our country coordinator over the past year. We are extremely grateful to you. I want to thank Secretary Lazaro and the Philippines for their leadership as ASEAN chair, and I want to thank all of the distinguished ministers here today for the warm welcome you've given me on my first international trip since being appointed Foreign Secretary just about 48 hours ago. I felt it was very, very important to come straight to the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting as a sign of our solidarity with ASEAN countries and of the importance we attach to this partnership. And that is the message I most of all want to convey today, Excellencies, which is the UK's commitment to ASEAN and its commitment for the long term. A commitment that remains just as strong for the UK's new Prime Minister as it did for our previous Prime Minister and for me personally. And indeed today, Excellencies, we mark the 5th anniversary of the ASEAN-UK Dialogue Partnership. 5 years is obviously not a long time in diplomacy, but it is long enough, I think, to build habits of cooperation, to establish trust, and to show that commitments made are commitments kept. And I am proud, if you will allow me, to mark the positive progress that we have made in delivering our first plan of action. We've helped advance the ASEAN power grid, we've stepped up cooperation against online scams and organised crime, and we've strengthened our ties from health security to education. And these are practical examples of what a trusted partnership can deliver. And I welcome the adoption today of a new plan of action to guide our partnership through the next 5 years. Alongside our joint statement on the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, which reaffirms our commitment to upholding international law and addressing mutual challenges. And I think this is an important point because whether on maritime security, energy security, economic resilience, or emerging technologies, our future will increasingly be shaped by how we work together multilaterally. And indeed, we meet at a moment when the world is ever more unstable and uncertain. Devastating conflict in Sudan, in Palestine, in Lebanon and beyond. So we must inject renewed international energy and momentum to halt the suffering and to secure lasting peace. And I know in particular how much the Iran conflict is affecting our ASEAN partners. You are feeling as much as anyone across the world the daily impact on your economies and the living standards of your citizens, as well indeed as the impact on seafarers from many ASEAN nations. We too in the UK, in our own way, are feeling the effects of the conflict on families and businesses in the impacts on the cost of living. We very much welcome the MOU reached in June between the US and Iran, and the UK condemns in the strongest terms the unjustified attacks by Iran since then on shipping and indeed on our Gulf partners. As a government, I assure you, we will work intensively with others to seek to de-escalate this conflict and find a diplomatic way forward which is in all of our interests. That must include reopening the Strait of Hormuz and upholding the fundamental principle of freedom of navigation, a principle that the maritime nations around the table know better than anyone is so important. As a government, we will also continue to stand with Ukraine as they defend themselves against Russia's unprovoked and premeditated aggression that is not just a test of Ukrainian resilience, but of our collective resolve. And following our government, the UK government's historic recognition of the state of Palestine, we must not lose sight of the plight of those suffering in Gaza and the West Bank. And we will continue to work with others to bring about a just and lasting peace, to deliver security for both Palestinians and Israelis. Indeed, in this era of international instability, we must go even further to defend the principles at the heart of the UN Charter: respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, the peaceful settlement of disputes, the rule of law, and an international system in which countries large and small can make their own choices free from coercion. Principles reflected in the ASEAN Charter and the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, now in its 50th year. Principles the UK strongly supports. That is why we remain firmly behind ASEAN centrality and the rules-based ASEAN-led regional architecture. The ASEAN Regional Forum is, in our view, a leading example, and we hope to become a permanent member soon. ASEAN's ability to bring countries together for open and respectful dialogue has, in our view, never been more important. So let me end by saying this, as we celebrate
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.